The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wide enough to hold representatives from 47 different species. Crystal pillars rose toward a domed ceiling that displayed the stars in real time, showing every world under Council protection. Ambassador Ji-hoon Park stood at the human podium, a simple structure compared to the elaborate platforms of older species. He adjusted his dark blue uniform and cleared his throat. "The medical supplies are ready for transport," Ji-hoon said, his voice carrying through the translation devices every species wore. "Our doctors have prepared enough vaccines for the Tauran plague outbreak. We can have ships there in 3 days." The avian representative, Councillor Vrenth, ruffled his golden feathers. His species had been part of the council for over 2,000 years. 3 days. How deficient. The council appreciates human contributions. Ji-hoon nodded and sat down. He had been humanity's voice here for 12 years now. Sometimes he felt they were valued. Other times, like today, something in Vrenth's tone made him uncertain. The word contributions sounded different than partnership. Captain Nari Kim watched the session from the observation gallery. She commanded the Human Defense Fleet, 12 ships that patrolled the borders between Council space and the unknown regions beyond. Her dark hair was pulled back tight and her uniform was crisp despite the long journey from her flagship. She noticed how the Council barely acknowledged Ji-hoon's report. The Tauran plague was killing thousands. Yet no one seemed particularly grateful that humans had solved it. The session continued. A trade dispute between 2 species took an hour to resolve. Then came the discussion about mining rights on an asteroid field near human territory. Ji-hoon presented humanity's claim, backed by surveys and legal precedent. They had discovered the field. They had mapped it. By every council law it belonged to them, High Chancellor Morketh. A massive reptilian whose scales gleamed under the chamber lights, listened without expression. "The council will review this claim," he said finally. "We must ensure all proper procedures are followed." "We followed every procedure," Ji-hoon replied carefully. "Our documentation is complete." "Nevertheless," Morketh's tail swished slowly, "we must be thorough. Some species have raised concerns about human expansion rates." Ji-hoon felt heat rise in his chest but kept his voice level. "What concerns?" "We followed the expansion guidelines exactly." "The matter is under review," Vrenth interjected smoothly. "Let us move to the next item." Nari watched Ji-hoon's shoulders tense. She had seen this pattern before. When the Korthan species claimed a similar asteroid field last year, the council approved it in one session. No review period. No concerns about expansion. After the session ended, Nari met Ji-hoon in one of the corridor gardens. Artificial sunlight filtered through the dome above, and plants from a dozen worlds grew in careful harmony. It was one of the few places they could talk privately. "They're doing it again," Nari said quietly. "I know." Ji-hoon looked tired. 47 years we've been here, Nari, almost half a century. We've given them medical advances they never dreamed of. Our engineers fix their power grid problems. Our peacekeepers stop conflicts before they start. And still, they treat us like children asking for allowance? They walked in silence for a moment. A small blue bird from Earth chirped from a nearby branch. Humanity had brought many gifts to the council, including creatures and plants that thrived in these diplomatic gardens. "Dr. Sora Lee contacted me yesterday," Ji-hoon said. "She's finished the new FTL communication prototype. It could connect every council world instantly. No more lag time between systems." "That's incredible," Nari said. "The council should be celebrating. She wants to present it next month." Ji-hoon paused. I told her to wait. "Why?" "Because I don't trust them anymore." The words came out harder than Ji-hoon intended. Every time we give them something valuable, they find a way to minimize it. Or claim we didn't follow some obscure protocol. Or just forget to thank us. Nari touched his arm. "You're not wrong. My officers report the same thing. Human ships get boarded for inspections 3 times more often than others. Our cargo gets delayed. Our patrol reports get questioned even when we have clear evidence." A message alert chimed on Ji-hoon's device. He read it and his face went pale. What is it? Colony World Harmony. Ji-hoon's voice was hollow. Seismic disaster. The main continent is breaking apart. They're requesting immediate evacuation support. How many people? 200,000. Mostly human families, some mixed species couples. They rushed back to the council chamber. An emergency session was already forming. Ji-hoon stood at the human podium again, but this time his carefully maintained diplomacy was cracking. We need every available transport ship, he said. The colony has maybe 72 hours before the continent collapses completely into the ocean. Chancellor Morketh nodded slowly. A terrible situation. However, we must consider our resources carefully. Resources? Nari had joined Ji-hoon at the podium, protocol forgotten. There are 200,000 lives at risk. We understand, Vrenth said. But the Council is currently committed to the Proxima Station expansion. We cannot simply redirect those ships, Proxima Station. Ji-hoon's voice rose. That's a trade hub. This is a rescue operation. A trade hub that serves 40 species, another counselor added. While Harmony is primarily a human concern. The chamber fell silent. The words hung in the air like poison. A human concern? Ji-hoon repeated quietly. I see. We will, of course, provide what assistance we can spare, Morketh said. But the Proxima project is strategically important to the entire council. Nari looked at the faces around the chamber. Some species looked uncomfortable. Others nodded in agreement with the Chancellor. None spoke up for the colony. How much assistance can you spare? She asked. 3 transport ships, Vrenth said. They should be able to evacuate 20 or 30,000. That's not even 15%, Ji-hoon said. It is what we can offer. Perhaps human ships can handle the rest? Our nearest fleet is 6 days away, Nari said through clenched teeth. They'll arrive too late. Then I suggest you begin evacuating the most essential personnel immediately, Morketh said. Now we must move on. There are other matters requiring council attention. Ji-hoon and Nari stood there, dismissed like students who had taken too much of the teacher's time. They walked out together. Neither speaking until they reached the docking bay where Nari's shuttle waited. They're going to let them die, Nari said. Not all of them? Ji-hoon pulled out his communication device. Get every human ship in range to Harmony. Commercial, military, private yachts if necessary. We'll do this ourselves, and the council? Ji-hoon looked back at the massive station, with its gleaming spires and its 47 flags flying in perfect harmony. The human flag looked small among them. The council, he said softly, has just made a choice. Soon we'll make ours. Dr. Sora Lee couldn't sleep anymore. 6 months had passed since Harmony, and the nightmares still came every night. She had been on that colony visiting her sister's family when the ground started shaking. The evacuation had been chaos. Human ships arrived barely in time, packed so full that people stood pressed together for the 3-day journey to safety. Her sister survived. Her sister's husband did not. Neither did their 2 children, 140,000 dead. The official council report called it an unfortunate natural disaster with regrettable losses. They sent formal condolences. Then they moved on. Ora stood in her laboratory now, looking at the device that might change everything. The FTL communication array hummed softly, its crystalline core pulsing with light. 5 years of research had led to this moment. She could connect every world in council space instantly. No more waiting hours or days for messages to travel between stars. It was revolutionary. Are you sure about this? Her assistant asked. After what happened, especially after what happened, Sora said. We need to show them we're still valuable, that we matter. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Would they care? Or would they find another way to dismiss human achievement? Across the station, Commander Daeyeon Choi sat in a secure room reading classified reports. As a military strategist, he had access to intelligence that most humans never saw. What he found made his blood run cold. Secret meetings between 12 council species. Trade agreements that specifically excluded human merchants. defense pacts that prevented human colonies from expanding into certain regions. It was all there, documented in intercepted communications his agents had gathered over months. "They're boxing us in," he said to the intelligence officer beside him. "Yes, sir. It appears they've been coordinating this for at least 2 years, maybe longer. Before we even joined, they were planning to control us." Dae-yun closed the file. "We need to show this to the ambassador." Ji-hoon looked older when they met that evening. The weight of harmony still hung on him. He read through Dae-yun's evidence slowly, his expression darkening with each page. "This is deliberate," Ji-hoon said. "They never intended to treat us as equals. What do we do?" "I'm not sure yet. But tomorrow, Dr. Sora presents her communication device to the council. Let's see how they respond to that." The council chamber was full when Sora stepped up to present. She had prepared for weeks, rehearsing every word. The device sat on a demonstration table, its crystals catching the light beautifully. "Honorable council members," she began, "I present a breakthrough in faster-than-light communication. This device creates quantum-entangled channels that allow instant messaging across any distance. No lag, no delay. Perfect clarity." She activated the device. A hologram appeared, showing real-time communication with a human colony 15 light-years away. The colonist waved. Sora waved back. The response was immediate. "As you can see, there is zero delay. This technology could connect every council world. Emergency communications would be instant. Trade coordination would be perfect. Military response times would improve dramatically." The council members murmured among themselves. Sora felt a flutter of hope. They had to see the value in this. Chancellor Morketh leaned forward. "Impressive work, Doctor. The council thanks you for this presentation. We would like to implement it across all council space," Sora said. "My team can begin training technicians immediately." "Ah." Vrenth's feathers ruffled. "That may be premature. This technology requires extensive review. Security analysis? Safety protocols? We've run every safety test," Sora replied. "The data is all in my report." "Nevertheless," Morketh said, "technology of this magnitude must be carefully evaluated. We will assign a team of council scientists to verify your work." "My team can work with them. That won't be necessary," Vrenth interrupted smoothly. "We have experts far more experienced with quantum mechanics." "Your contribution is noted, Doctor, but the council will handle implementation from here." Sora felt something break inside her chest. "You're taking my research." "We are ensuring it is properly utilized for the benefit of all species," Morketh said. "Surely you understand that some technologies are too important to remain in the hands of newer members." The chamber went quiet. The insult was clear. Ji-hoon rose from the human section. "With respect, Chancellor, Dr. Sora Lee's work is the property of humanity. If you wish to use it, we can discuss licensing agreements." "The Council does not license technology from member species," another counselor said. "All advances are shared for the common good. Shared or taken." Captain Nari's voice cut through the room. She had entered during the presentation, still in her fleet uniform. "Captain Kim, you are out of order," Vrenth said. "No, Counselor. We are out of patience." Nari walked to stand beside Ji-hoon. "Harmony Colony. The asteroid field claims. The trade restrictions. The patrol boardings. And now this. You don't share with us. You take from us." "These accusations are baseless," Morketh said, but his tail had stopped moving. "Are they?" Dae-yun stepped forward with a data pad. "Because I have communications showing 12 species coordinating to limit human expansion. I have trade agreements that exclude us by name. I have defense pacts designed to keep us weak." The chamber erupted. Some species looked shocked. Others looked guilty. A few looked angry at being exposed. "Order!" Morketh's voice boomed. "These classified communications were obtained illegally." "So you admit they exist?" Ji-hoon said quietly. "The Council's internal discussions are not subject to member review," Vrenth said quickly. And I resent the implication that we have treated humanity unfairly. You should be grateful for everything the Council has provided. Grateful. Ji-hoon repeated the word like it was poison. We should be grateful, yes. When you joined us, you were barely capable of interstellar travel. We welcomed you. We shared our technology. We gave you a seat at this table. And we gave you medical science that saved millions, Sora said, her voice shaking. We gave you engineering solutions you couldn't solve in centuries. We gave you peacekeepers who died defending your borders. We gave you everything we had, and you treated us like servants. That is enough. Morketh rose to his full height. The Council will not be spoken to in this manner. If humanity cannot show proper respect, perhaps you need time to reconsider your membership. The chamber fell silent again. The threat was clear. Ji-hoon looked at Nari, then at Dae-yeon. Then at Sora. He saw the same expression on each face. Determination, anger, and something else. Freedom. Counselor Morketh, Ji-hoon said slowly, you misunderstand. We are not asking for respect anymore. Then what are you asking for? Nothing? Ji-hoon gathered his datapads. We are done asking. What does that mean? Vrenth demanded. Ji-hoon looked around the chamber one last time. At the species who had used them. At the representatives who had watched in silence while humans were dismissed and diminished. At the flags flying in false unity. It means, Ji-hoon said clearly, we are going home. He walked out. Nari followed. Then Dae-yeon. Then Sora, taking her device with her. The Council sat in stunned silence. Then nervous laughter broke out. They'll be back, someone said. Humans are too dependent on Council resources. Let them cool off, Vrenth agreed. They're being emotional. In a few weeks they'll see reason. But Chancellor Morketh watched the door where the humans had left. And for the first time in his long career, he felt something like doubt. In a private human meeting room, Ji-hoon activated a secure channel. Faces appeared on the screen, leaders from every human colony, every fleet, every station. Begin the withdrawal protocol, he said. We're leaving. All of us. Confirmed, came the responses one after another. How long? Someone asked. Ji-hoon looked at the determination on every face. As fast as possible. And when we leave completely. They'll try to stop us. Let them try, Nari said. We built most of their infrastructure. We fixed their problems. We made them comfortable. Let's see how they manage without us. Sora looked at her device, the one they tried to steal. What about our research? Our technology? We take it with us, Ji-hoon said. Every blueprint. Every formula. Every piece of knowledge we shared in good faith. If they want it back, they can learn to value us first. The faces on the screen nodded. One by one, they began to sign off to start the preparations. This will change everything, Dae-yeon said. Yes, Ji-hoon agreed. It will, and maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs. The first ship left on a Tuesday morning. It was a medical transport stationed at Vrella Prime, a major council hospital world. The human doctors and nurses boarded quietly, taking their personal belongings and nothing else. The Vrellan administrator watched in confusion. Where are you going? She asked. We have surgery scheduled. You will need to find other doctors, the head physician said politely. We are returning to human space. But the patients? Your species practiced medicine before we arrived. I'm sure you will manage. The ship departed. Within an hour, every human medical facility on Vrella Prime was empty. 300 staff members, gone. The hospital scrambled to fill the gaps on the council station. Counselor Vrenth received the first reports with mild concern. A protest, he told his staff. They'll return when they calm down. By the end of the week, reports flooded in from across council space. Human engineers leaving construction projects. Human teachers abandoning their schools. Human merchants closing their shops. Human peacekeepers boarding transports home. Captain Nari Kim oversaw the military withdrawal personally. Her fleet had grown to 18 ships now, all positioned near human territories. One by one, the human defense post went dark. Soldiers packed up their equipment, erased their data files, and departed. "The Corthan border post is requesting we stay," her communications officer reported. "They say hostile raiders have been spotted in the region." "Send them our regrets," Nari said. "They have their own military. They can handle it. They're saying they don't have enough ships in position, not our problem anymore." The officer hesitated. "Captain, some of our people are uncomfortable leaving. They've made friends here. They feel like we're abandoning allies." Nari understood the feeling. She had friends too. Good people from other species who had treated humans with respect. But those individuals had not stood up when the council dismissed humanity. Silence was a choice too. "Tell our people this," Nari said carefully. "We are not abandoning allies. We are leaving an organization that never valued us. Any true friends are welcome to visit us in human space, but we will not stay where we are not wanted as equals." On the industrial world of Macron 7, Chief Engineer Minho Song received his orders. The massive shipyard orbiting the planet had been designed and built primarily by human engineers. It produced 3/4 of the Council's commercial vessels. Minho had helped design the power systems, the manufacturing equipment, even the life support networks. "Strip it," the order said. "Take everything that's ours." Minho gathered his team of 200 engineers. "We have 72 hours. Remove every piece of proprietary human technology. Every custom program. Every specialized tool we brought." "Sir, if we do that, the shipyard will barely function," his deputy said. No, the council depends on these ships. They should have thought of that before. Treating us like second-class members? They worked through 3 days and nights? Power converters that humans had installed to improve efficiency removed. Software optimization programs deleted. Custom welding equipment packed onto transports. Manufacturing shortcuts that human engineers had devised erased from the databases. When they finished, the shipyard still stood, but its production capacity had dropped by 60%. The Macron facility manager raged at them as they departed. "You're sabotaging us." "No," Minho said calmly. "We're taking what's ours. Everything still here is council technology. Use it well." Similar scenes played out across 40 systems. Humans were not violent. They did not destroy anything. They simply took back what they had contributed and left. Dr. Sora Lee helped coordinate the research withdrawal. Every laboratory with human scientists received instructions. Pack up your research. Delete the files. Bring the data home. What about collaborative projects? A researcher asked. "I'm working with a Tauran scientist on cellular regeneration. We're close to a breakthrough." "Offer them a choice," Sora said. "They can come work in human space or the project ends." Most alien scientists stayed. They did not understand what was happening. A few followed their human colleagues, seeing an opportunity or simply valuing their partnerships more than politics. The FTL communication device never left Sora's sight. She had designed it, built it, and now she would ensure the council never got their hands on it. The quantum crystals alone had taken 3 years to grow. No one else knew the process. Chancellor Morkath called an emergency council session 6 weeks into the exodus. "This has gone on long enough," he declared. "The humans must be stopped." "Stopped from what?" another counselor asked. "They are leaving peacefully. They have broken no laws. They are crippling our infrastructure." "No, Chancellor. They are removing their own contributions." "There is a difference." Vrenth looked troubled. "Perhaps we should open negotiations. Invite Ambassador Jihoon back to discuss." "We do not negotiate with petulant children," Morkath growled. "Send a message to all human vessels. They are to remain at their posts until this council grants them permission to depart." The message was sent. It was ignored. I received the council's demand on her flagship bridge. She read it aloud to her officers, and they laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Permission to depart," she said. "They still think they can command us. Should we respond?" Her first officer asked. No, let our silence speak for us. The silence was indeed speaking. 3 months into the exodus, the council could no longer ignore the reality. Medical facilities were overwhelmed without human doctors. Engineering projects sat half-finished without human specialists. Trade routes that humans had maintained for decades were falling into chaos. Defense posts on the borders were undermanned and vulnerable, and still the humans said nothing. Every attempt at communication went unanswered. Ambassadors sent to human space were turned away at the border without acknowledgement. The blockade was not military. Human ships simply did not respond to hails, did not grant passage, and did not explain. Ji-hoon watched from a human command center deep in their home system. Screens showed the withdrawal progress. 92% complete. Almost everyone was home. There are still some humans in council space who refuse to leave, an aide reported. Mostly those married to other species or with deep business ties. Send them one final message, Ji-hoon said. They have 72 hours to decide. After that, we seal the border completely. No one in, no one out. That's harsh. So was watching harmony burn while the council worried about trade stations. The final transport ships departed on schedule. When they crossed into human space, the border posts activated fully. Energy barriers, sensor nets, automated defense platforms, everything humanity had quietly built over the years suddenly came online. The message was clear. Human space was closed. On the council station, reports of the sealed border caused panic. Species that had relied on human trade were already struggling. Now they could not even attempt to negotiate. They've locked us out, Vrenth said in disbelief. How did they build those defenses without us noticing? Apparently we were too busy dismissing them to pay attention, another counselor muttered. Morketh refused to accept defeat. Prepare a fleet. We will break through their blockade and force them to return to their responsibilities. Chancellor, that would be an act of war. They are breaking their council oaths. No, sir. They are exercising their sovereign right to leave. We are not an empire. We are a council. Member species can withdraw? Not like this. Not by crippling us first. But even as Morketh raged, the reports kept coming. The shipyard on Macron 7 had suspended production. Power failures were spreading across industrial worlds. The hospital on Vrella Prime had shut down 2 entire wings. Merchant guilds were reporting supply chain collapse, and on the border something else was happening. Raiders who had been quiet for years, held back by human peacekeepers, were suddenly active again. Small colonies found themselves under attack with no one coming to help. Counselor Vrenth sat in his office late one night, reading through reports from the past 47 years. Human contributions to the council. Medical advances. Engineering solutions. Peacekeeping operations. Trade networks. Research breakthroughs. Page after page. Year after year. Humans giving and giving, receiving only condescension in return. We used them, he said to himself. We used them and never valued them. His aide knocked on the door. Counselor, the humans have sent a message. Vrenth sat up. Finally. What does it say? The aide looked uncomfortable. Just one sentence, sir. Well? You taught us that silence is the only language you understand. Vrenth stared at the message. No demands. No negotiation offers. Just that one line across the galaxy in the warm light of human space, Nari stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the border defenses hold strong. No council ship had tried to cross. They were too busy dealing with the consequences of their choices. How long do we maintain the blockade? Her officer asked. As long as it takes, Nari said. They wanted us gone. Now we're gone. Let them learn what that really means. 2 years had passed since the humans left. The galaxy was not the same. Ambassador Yunji Han stood in a monitoring station at the edge of human space, watching data streams from across the former council territories. She was not there as a diplomat anymore. That title meant nothing now. She was simply an observer, recording the consequences of choices made long ago. The Vrella hospital system has collapsed completely, her assistant reported. They're asking for medical aid again? Noted, Yunji said without emotion. Add it to the log, should we respond? No, the assistant shifted uncomfortably. Ambassador, people are dying. People died on Harmony too, Yunji said quietly. The difference is the Vrellans have their own doctors. They simply became dependent on ours and never bothered to train enough of their own. That was their choice. She was not cruel by nature. None of the humans were. But 2 years of watching the council reap what they had sown had hardened something in her. Compassion without respect led only to exploitation. Hin Wukong worked in intelligence now, monitoring communications across council space. His team intercepted everything: diplomatic channels, military communications, civilian broadcasts. The picture they revealed was one of an order falling apart. Chancellor Morketh has been removed from power, Yunwu reported during the daily briefing. The vote was unanimous. He's being blamed for the human exodus. That was 2 years ago, someone noted. Why now? Because the consequences are finally too big to ignore. Yunwu pulled up economic data. Council GDP has dropped 43%. Industrial production is down 60%. Medical capabilities are at pre-human levels, which means millions are dying from diseases we had cured. And the fractures are spreading. The screen showed a map of former council space. It looked like shattered glass. Where once there had been unity, now there were fragments. Species blamed each other for the human departure. Old rivalries resurfaced. Trade disputes became armed conflicts. The Korthan and Vrax are at war, Yunwu continued. Border dispute. Normally human peacekeepers would have mediated. Now they are just killing each other. How many conflicts in total? Yunji asked. 17 active wars. 32 border disputes. Hundreds of trade disagreements that would have been resolved in council chambers, but now have no neutral ground for negotiation. And the council itself? Fragmenting. Species are forming smaller regional alliances. The grand unity that lasted 4,000 years is effectively dead. Councillor Vrenth sat in what remained of the council chamber. Only 20 species sent representatives anymore. The others had withdrawn to form their own coalitions. He looked much older now, his golden feathers dulled with stress. We need to contact the humans, he said. It was not the first time he had said it. It would not be the last. They don't respond, another counselor said tiredly. We have sent 300 messages, all ignored. Then we go to them. In person, they turn away all ships at the border. Then we wait at the border until they acknowledge us. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew it would not work. The humans had made their position clear through silence more powerful than any declaration of war. A new report arrived, and Vrenth's blood went cold as he read it. What is it? Someone asked. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching from beyond the rim. Unknown configuration. Estimated size. Over 5,000 ships. The chamber erupted in panic. 5,000 ships. The entire Council Defense Force barely numbered 800, and half of those were old, poorly maintained vessels that had relied on human-designed systems. Who are they? We don't know. They are coming from a region we thought was protected. Protected by what? Vrenth looked up, his eyes hollow. By the defense network the humans maintained. The one that went offline when they left. For 47 years, humanity had quietly staffed and maintained a chain of sensor posts and defense platforms along the Council's outer rim. They had dealt with threats before they ever reached populated space. Raiders, hostile species, dangerous phenomena all filtered out by human vigilance that no one had noticed because it worked so well. Now that network was gone. And something terrible was coming. Activate the fleet, Vrenth ordered. All available ships to defensive positions. Counselor, we can barely crew half our ships without human officers. Then crew what you can. Move! The fleet scrambled to respond. 800 ships became 400 operational vessels. Then 300 as systems failures cascaded through vessels that had not been properly maintained. The pride of the Council reduced to a fraction of its former strength. The alien armada arrived 3 weeks later. They were called the Krellith, a species that had been raiding Council borders for centuries. The humans had always driven them back. Now there were no humans, and the Krellith had brought everything they had. The first battle was a massacre. Council ships, without human tactical coordination and running on outdated systems, fell apart against the disciplined Krellith assault. 200 vessels destroyed in the first engagement. The survivors retreated in disarray. Vrenth watched the battle reports with growing horror. We need help. From whom? The humans. They won't answer. They have to. This threatens the entire region, including their space. But the messages sent to human territory went unanswered, just like all the others. The border remained sealed. The defense platforms remained silent. And the Krellith pushed deeper into former Council space. Planets fell. Colonies were destroyed. Millions died. The species that had spent 2 years blaming each other for the human departure now faced an enemy they could not defeat. And still the humans said nothing. In the human monitoring station, Yunji watched the Krellith advance with careful attention. They're getting close to the Tauren homeworld, her assistant said. The Tauren were one of the few species that treated us well. Yunji nodded slowly. She remembered. The Tauren had voted against taking Sora's research. They had supported human territorial claims. They had been outvoted every time, but they had tried. Note their position, she said. And the Korthan? Still fighting the Vrax? They don't even know the Krellith are coming. The Korthan voted to abandon Harmony Colony, Yunji said. Twice. The assistant said nothing. The math was clear. Some species had tried to be fair. Others had actively worked against humanity. The humans were watching to see who deserved help and who deserved exactly what they had earned. Hyunwoo burst into the monitoring station 3 days later. We have a situation. The Krellith? No, the Council. They've sent a delegation. They're waiting at our border right now. Turn them away like all the others. We can't. Counselor Vrenth is leading it personally. He's been waiting for 6 days. His ship is low on supplies. If we don't respond soon, it becomes a humanitarian issue. Yunji considered. Who else is with him? Representatives from the Tauren, the Vexer, and the Morphids. Species that voted in our favor when they could. Not the Korthan? Not the Vrax? No, this is a small delegation. The ones who weren't actively against us. Yunji made her decision. Let them in. But they come to us. And they wait as long as we waited for justice. Vrenth's ship was escorted into human space 6 weeks after they arrived at the border. 6 weeks of waiting in silence, wondering if they would ever receive acknowledgement. It was a fraction of the 47 years humans had waited for respect, but Vrenth felt every day of it. They were brought to a human space station. Not the grand diplomatic facilities of old, but a simple military outpost. Vrenth and his small delegation were led to a plain conference room with basic chairs and no decoration. Jihoon entered 3 hours later. He looked the same but different. Older, perhaps, harder. He sat down across from Vrenth without offering any greeting. You wanted to talk, Jihoon said. Talk? Vrenth had prepared speeches. Apologies and explanations and justifications. Looking at Jihoon's expression, he knew none of that would matter. We need your help, Vrenth said simply. The Krellith are destroying us. We cannot fight them alone. Why should we care? Because they will eventually threaten your space too. Our defenses are strong? We will deal with that if it happens. Millions are dying. Vrenth felt the words like a physical blow. We were wrong. About everything. We used you? We dismissed you. We took your contributions and never gave you the respect you deserved, and now you want us back. Yes, because you need us, yes, Vrenth said again, his voice breaking. We need you. We cannot survive without you. Is that what you want to hear? That we were fools? That we destroyed ourselves through pride? It's true. All of it. Jihoon stood and walked to the window. Outside, human ships patrolled in perfect formation. Everything worked. Everything was maintained. Everything ran smoothly because humans valued competence and cooperation. You taught us a lesson, Counselor, Jehun said. You taught us that our kindness would be exploited. Our skills would be taken for granted. Our contributions would be minimized. So we left. And now you have learned your own lesson, please, Vrenth said. I am begging you. Help us. Jehun turned to face him. Why should we risk human lives for species that barely acknowledged our existence? Because you are better than we are, Vrenth said. Because you have every right to let us die, and yet I believe you will not. Because humanity has shown more honor in silence than we ever showed with all our grand words. Vrenth and his delegation waited for 6 weeks in the human station. They were given comfortable quarters, adequate food, and polite but distant treatment. No one was cruel to them. No one was particularly kind either. They simply existed in a state of uncertainty, which was perhaps the point. Every day, Vrenth received reports from Council Space. Every day the news grew worse. The Krelith had destroyed 12 more colonies. The makeshift Council fleet had lost another engagement. 3 species had surrendered rather than face annihilation. The Korthan homeworld was under siege. They're letting us suffer, the Tauran representative said one evening. Making us feel what they felt. Can you blame them? Vrenth replied. We made them wait 47 years for basic respect. 6 weeks is nothing. On the 42nd day, Jehun returned. With him came Admiral Nari Kim, now Supreme Commander of all human military forces. Also present was a young woman Vrenth did not recognize. This is Yuna Shin, Jehun said. She represents humanity's future. She was 16 when we left the council. Now she is one of our youngest ambassadors. Yuna looked at Vrenth with eyes that held no warmth. I lost friends on Harmony Colony, she said simply. I want you to understand that before we begin. Vrenth nodded, unable to speak. In AR, I spread out tactical displays on the table. The Krelith fleet numbers 5,200 ships. Your remaining forces number approximately 200 operational vessels. Without intervention, Council Space will fall within 3 months. Can you stop them? The Vexor representative asked. Yes, Nari said. Easily. The word hung in the air. Easily. After 2 years of Council forces being shredded, humans could end this easily. What are your terms? Vrenth asked. Jehun handed him a document. Read it, all of it. Then we will discuss. Vrenth read. With each paragraph, he felt the weight of human anger made manifest in legal language. Public acknowledgement of how humans had been treated. Formal apology broadcast across all council channels. Reparations paid over 50 years. Complete equality in any future agreements with human veto power over policies affecting them. Access to all council records showing discrimination against humanity. This is harsh, Vrenth said quietly. These are consequences, Yuna replied. You built a system that exploited us. Now you will acknowledge it publicly and work to ensure it never happens again. Some species will refuse these terms. Then they can face the Krelith alone, Nari said without sympathy. We are not negotiating. These are the terms. Accept them or decline them. The Tauran representative spoke up. My people will accept. We were wrong to stay silent when humans were mistreated. We should have fought harder. Your species tried, Jehun acknowledged. We remember who spoke for us and who spoke against us. That memory will shape our future relationships. Vrenth understood. Some species would be forgiven more easily than others. The Korthan, who had voted to abandon Harmony, would find no friends among humanity. The Tauran, who had tried to help, might rebuild trust eventually. The Korthan homeworld is dying, Vrenth said. Will you save them? Why should we? Yuna asked. They voted twice to let our people die. They blocked our territorial expansion. They spread lies about human aggression. Tell me, Counselor, why should we risk human lives for the Korthan? Vrenth had no answer. The truth was simple and ugly. They should not. The Korthan had earned their fate. We will save them anyway, Jehun said, and everyone looked at him in surprise. Not because they deserve it, but because we choose to be better than they were. That is the difference between us and the Council. You help those who serve your interests. We will help those who need us, even when they do not deserve it. But there will be a cost, Nari added. The Korthan will accept our terms publicly. They will acknowledge their role in the human exodus. They will pay reparations. They will live with the knowledge that they were saved by the species they tried to diminish. Some will see that as cruel, the Morphid representative said. Some will see it as justice, Yuna replied. We see it as a lesson. Help comes from those you respect, not those you exploit. Vrenth signed the document. So did the other representatives present. Within hours, the message went out across Council space. Humanity would intervene. But the galaxy would know exactly why it had been necessary. The human fleet entered the war zone 3 days later. 200 ships, but they moved with precision the Council had forgotten was possible. Admiral Nari commanded from her flagship, and every captain knew their role perfectly. The first engagement was brief. Krella ships outnumbered the human force 10-1, but it did not matter. Human weapons were advanced. Human tactics were flawless. Human coordination was absolute. Within 6 hours, the Krellith fleet had lost 800 ships. The survivors retreated in confusion. They fight like we did 47 years ago, Nari observed. Aggressive but disorganized. They never faced a unified force because the Council was never truly unified. The human fleet pursued. Not to destroy entirely, but to drive back. At each engagement, Nari offered the Krellith a choice: retreat or be destroyed. Most retreated? Those who did not learn quickly. The siege of the Korthan homeworld was lifted after 3 days. The Korthan leadership sent messages of gratitude. Nari ignored them. She had her order: save the species, but do not pretend friendship where none existed. Dr. Sora Lee watched the war from human space. Her FTL communication device now connected all human vessels, giving them coordination the Krellith could not match. She thought about offering the technology to the Council again. Then she remembered how they had tried to steal it. Some things, she said to herself, are earned. The war ended 6 weeks after human intervention. The Krellith were pushed back beyond the rim, their fleet shattered. Human ships established a new defense network, but this time it was clearly human territory. The posts were marked, declared, and unmistakable. The border is established, Nari informed the Council. Beyond this point is our responsibility. We will defend it. But we will not defend your territory unless you meet our terms. Councillor Vrenth stood before what remained of the Council and delivered the speech he had dreaded. Every word was broadcast across surviving Council worlds. We have lived a lie, he began. For 47 years, we benefited from human contributions while treating them as lesser members. We took their medicine, their engineering, their peacekeeping, and their innovation. We gave them condescension in return. The assembled species listened in uncomfortable silence. When they asked for basic respect, we dismissed them. When their colony burned, we called it regrettable and moved on. When they presented breakthrough technology, we tried to take it rather than honor their achievement. We built our prosperity on their labor and never acknowledged the foundation. Vrenth's voice grew stronger. They left in silence because words had become meaningless. We spoke of unity while practicing exclusion. We praised cooperation while coordinating against them. They showed us who we truly were by their absence. The Krellith nearly destroyed us because we had become weak. Not weak in numbers, but weak in character. We had forgotten that strength comes from genuine partnership, not exploitation. The humans remembered. That is why they survived while we nearly fell. He held up the document he had signed. These are the terms of our salvation. Public acknowledgement of our failures. Reparations for damages. Equality in all future dealings. Some will call these terms harsh. I call them merciful. We asked for their help after treating them as servants. They could have let us die. Instead, they saved us and asked only that we finally see them as equals. The old council is dead. What comes next will be determined by whether we learn from our mistakes or are doomed to repeat them. The speech was discussed across the surviving worlds. Some species accepted it with shame. Others bristled at admitting fault. The Korthan government initially refused to accept responsibility until Nari sent them a simple message. The next time the Kralith come, we will watch. They signed the acknowledgement within an hour. 10 years passed. The galaxy was different now. The Grand Council that had united 47 species was gone. In its place were smaller coalitions, regional alliances, and independent systems. Some thrived. Others struggled. None achieved the unity that had once existed. Humanity stood apart. Not isolated, but independent. Species that wanted human help, medical, engineering, military, or otherwise came to them as equals or not at all. Trade happened on fair terms. Technology was licensed, not stolen. Respect was required, not optional. New species entering galactic society now approached humanity first. Having heard the stories, they wanted to ally with the species that had brought the mighty council to its knees without firing the first shot. Ambassador Jehun, now retired, lived on a peaceful colony world. He was old now, his hair silver, his hands steady. He had given his youth to the council and his wisdom to humanity's independence. He had no regrets. Yuna Shin held his old position now, though the title had changed. She was not ambassador to the council. She was ambassador of humanity, representing an independent power that needed no one's permission to exist. One evening, as Jihun sat watching the sunset, his granddaughter climbed into his lap. She was 6 years old, born long after the Exodus.